Uh, I've been sitting here thinking about that title, Everything I Know I Learned in Kindergarten. And I would change that to Everything I Know I Learned from You Guys. I can't believe I'm here amongst you, and I'm very starstruck, I have to say. So I've been working on the information network of the 4 networks that are presented in Chase, Dunn, and Hall. Because I was intrigued by this picture, this idea of this squiggly line representing the information network. And somehow I thought, I don't know, I'm not sure if that's a good representation. But the idea from Chase, Dunn, and Hall was that the information network would follow the trade routes. And that does make sense, because before about 1850 or 1860, with the invention and the use of the telegraph, information all through human history up to that point had to be conveyed. It had to be in a state where you could convey it by human hands. It went as fast as humans could go, if humans could walk, if humans could run, if they could get on a horse, or if they could get on a ship. And the other thing about information is that it does come in a number of different modes or different forms. There's written communication, gestural communication, there is body language. There's one of the things I've noticed about the information network is it doesn't really matter in which ways the information comes. It could be spoken, it could be oral, it could be written, it could be gestural, it could be pictographic. The reason for this is because the information network itself has a unique role. I realize that if you're going to talk about communications, and Chris has been talking about this with me more and more, is that information, we're really talking about 3 things. There's information like data, like, oh, I see that the peony produces red flowers, or that star is in this position. Then there's communication, where I say something to somebody and it comes back. Communication is more of a 2-way or a multiple way of conveying information. And I like to add to this also what I learned from David Christian, which is the idea of collective learning. So humans also do this thing of collective learning, where it's not only just information and communication, but there's a process there that humans do where they are conveying information, and it is adding to the collective learning of the group. And so it's communication that humans can repeat, they can teach, you can receive it, you can learn from it, and it becomes greater than the sum of its parts. So if you think of what we're talking about in the information network as information, communications, and collective learning. So these 3 ways of thinking about information in the network. So how is it conveyed? Let me see if I can go to my other PowerPoint. That's it. And click here. Okay, so here's an example of one way that communication is conveyed. If you look at Kushana coins, and I have to give credit to Osman Balkarachi for this information, but the Kushan Empire, here's some dates here for the Kushana coins. On the back side is, of course, a picture of the Kushan Emperor. And the Kushan Empire was centrally located at the crossroads, the old Bactrian, Greco-Bactrian.
Can you go into the,
How do
make
I,
it larger?
how do I make it larger? Yeah, I want to, but Hiroko knows. She knows everything. Oh, okay. Okay. But it didn't work. Oh, there it is. Okay. Oh, and that changes it. Okay. So here you see the red one? The red one? Yeah. Okay. So here you have 2 different coins, and we're talking about a centralized location at the crossroads of between east and west. It's the old Greco-Bactrian area. And we have a coinage that is going to communicate information to a lot of different peoples from different places. So the flip side, of course, the Kushan Emperor. And here you have iconography of Buddha. on the coin, and you have in Greek the word Buddha. But strangely enough, over here on every Kushan coin, you have a Zoroastrian fire altar. See? And now this coin has Mithras, and you can see the flying ribbons and the halo. You know, this is to attract the Persians, right? So the coins are communicating something to these different cultures, these different people who might be trading and doing business using these Kushan coins. So this is a pictorial way to communicate information. It's not verbal. It's a little bit textual and a little bit pictographic, and it comes in the form of coins. So coins is just another way to physically convey communications, to physically convey information to people, and of course, most commonly along these trade routes. See? So it is true that the information network does seem to follow the trade routes, but I have another idea about the information network. Let me just also show you another example. Again, we're talking about over a long period of time and over a great geography. If you start here, start here with the Neo-Assyrians in 9th century BC, and the iconography is the lion. Okay, so the lion is a symbol. Without having to say anything, I can show you a lion. It is conveying some information about power, about stability. And so you have the lion showing up again here in India. And then much later, here's the lion, a tomb guardian in China. But something I'd also like to point out to you, and the reason I point out these things, coins, sculptured, so on, look at their toes, their claws. They're all the same. And even here. So something else is being conveyed here about art, about how to do art and how to stylize this thing. So if we take evidence from various disciplines, we will find out more and more about the information network. And one of the problems with when we're studying pre-modern world systems is that we're dealing with a lack of evidence. We're dealing with this, what we've been talking about, the gaps in the data. But if we borrow from different disciplines, if we think about what the archaeologists have found, what the art historians have found, what the numismatists have found, we'll begin to put the information network together. So my feeling about the information network, and I have to say, I'm a world historian, I'm a historian, not a sociologist yet. So at this point, I'm still interpreting history, which means I basically have no empirical evidence for you at all. I don't have nice charts and tables and so on. But my interpretation of the information network is that, let me just think here. We look at it from these different viewpoints, these different disciplines, and okay, so the other question that comes up in Chase, Dunn, and Hall is this idea of following the down-the-line trade, and what ends up happening is you could also have deterioration of the message. So the example that's often given is the kids' game, or the game we played at camp called the telephone game. You remember this game where someone says something in someone's ear next to them and they pass it on from ear to ear to ear, and by the time you get to the last person in the chain, everybody has a big laugh because they say what they think the message was, and it's completely different from the first person. So down the line trade, where you have two distal ends of a trade line who don't actually communicate with each other, they only know each other through the agents that come in between, and if the communications are also following down the line trade, there's a big possibility for it to be just a great big telephone game where the information will be corrupted, it'll change, it won't be accurate by the time it gets to the other end. Well, in looking at that, I'm thinking, well, that doesn't seem to bear up in the historical record. Because if that were true, then all these high stakes endeavors, like trade and exchange and so on, would fall apart. Military campaigns would fall apart. So even though pre-modern societies, pre-modern world systems don't have the benefits of communicating at the speed of light, the way that the modern system did, especially the modern system after 1850, And because communications are being conveyed by humans, it would seem like that's a very imperfect way to communicate things to people. But in fact, my premise is that humans are actually amending the communication. They are fixing problems. So you could have the down the line communication, and if you have at some point it is corrupted or it's falling apart or it's not accurate anymore, humans will actually amend the line of communication. They will fix it. They will self-correct. So for example, if you're a mariner and you've got a bad chart or a bad map, or you've got a poorly translated version of the Periplumaris Erythraeae, which is the textbook that was, or the book that was created to help mariners figure out how to sail the monsoons in the Indian Ocean. Well, if you got a bad piece of information, you have a ship and it's got cargo in it, and there are very high stakes for you to complete that journey. So what do? Based on your own human experience as a mariner, you change the chart, you change the map, you get yourself a different copy of this book, or somehow you amend the information in the information network, and you fix it. And by being able to self-correct the information network, you actually avoid this problem of the down-the-line corruption of the information. And the historical record, of course, bears this out, because we have a very robust and vibrant Indian Ocean trade that's going on from a very early time. So obviously people were able to fix their mistakes. So then I was thinking, well, what then can we say about the boundary of the information network? Where's the fall off? And for me, the fall off is where you no longer have the human ability to fix any mistakes. You don't have the self-correcting mechanism anymore. So where would that be? That would be at the point where people no longer have any human experience with whatever it is that's going on. So an example, for example, would be trading with the shells. That Chase Dunn has done all this work in the Northern California Indian populations, and they're trading with the shells. And even without a lingua franca, they are able to communicate what to do with these shells. Some of the things that they're able to communicate is, do trade with us and we won't raid you. Okay, so they figure out how to do trade with these little shells. Okay, but you get far enough south in California and you're going to begin to find a population of people that have no experience with these shells. They don't have a very good communication with the people who are trying to tell them to do the shells. And there's enough distance there that there's no human in that line of communication anymore who can amend or self-correct the information about the shells. And so you have to fall off. You have to fall off. Then at that point in California geography, you're going to have the end of that communication network. And that's going to also tell you what is the boundary of that little Wintu world system. It's the fall off, at which point there's no more human experience of what it is that that system is trying to tell people. So when I think of the information network, I don't think of this squiggly line that goes around the trade networks. I think of it as being more like fingers that are infiltrating. They're going in and out, weaving in and out of the other network.